Good morning, everybody. I am back for the part 2 of my story. And we're in my closet because I'm trying to get you guys good lighting, better lighting. So pardon if it's not. This is only video 3 or 4, so I don't have all the equipment, all the the lights and the cameras and all that. So again, I'm still just on my phone. But I did want to come back for part 2 of my health story. As promised, this is the hospital portion. So I'm going to start with, I think I ended the last video with going into cardiac arrest. And this was on Easter Sunday of 2017 when my heart stopped. And all of the information I am providing is either information that, one, I was told by my parents or family, or this was information that doctors had told me, because obviously I was in a coma for 2 weeks. So obviously I was not awake to really know in those 2 weeks what was kind of happening. So in those 2 weeks, it was the information that I got was either from my parents and family or my doctors. So let's start with cardiac arrest. People think that, I think because drinking is so socially acceptable, as opposed to, hardcore drugs, I think people think, oh, nothing can really, your liver, drinking your liver, and that's kind of like it. I'm here to tell you that is false information because the amount of things that happen to my body in the course of over drinking, of probably 7-8 years of over drinking, but even just in the 6-7 months leading up to going to being in the hospital and being actually very, very sick, a lot of things happened to my body. It wasn't just, oh, your liver can get damaged. Like, no, there was a lot of things wrong with me. And when I say this is coming from all my doctors, and I had a lot of them. So, to start off, when I got to the hospital and they immediately put me into ICU, I was immediately admitted into intensive care. I think everyone, again, I was not very coherent. I remember very little at this point. I had already become unresponsive. So I was very, barely coherent, and I really don't remember much from the day I was admitted. I do remember what my mom did tell me, and she did tell me that, I believe I said in my last video, I was throwing up like tar-like substances, or a tar-like substance. I don't know. I'm sure it's from all of the failing organs, but I'm not really sure what caused a thick black type tar substance. I do remember that my mom did tell me I was a little out of control. She said I was cussing at nurses, yelling at everybody, why am I in ICU? Why do I gotta go to ICU? This is crazy. I was literally crazy. which I don't remember any of. I don't remember any of that. I just remember because I just know this because she told me, but I have no recollection of this at all. So they get me into the room, and all I know is what we thought was just simply alcohol poisoning was a lot of internal damage. A lot of internal damage. And a couple things that I can state are, I do know after I went into cardiac arrest, one of the organs that failed for me, that would have been my heart. Obviously, you go into cardiac arrest, your heart stops, your heart is failed, your heart failed. So that was one. Then from that, I myself, this was not medically induced. I myself, my body slipped into a coma as soon as I came back to, my body fell into a coma. It was still very much dead. I mean, inside I was dead. I was literally, nothing was working. So the heart was the first organ that failed when I went into cardiac arrest. Number 2 now was my brain, because I had now lost oxygen to my brain for 5 to 7 minutes during the cardiac arrest. And now I'm in a coma for 2 weeks. Now, what I was told from my doctors was, you are not able to tell the brain damage of a person in a coma because your mind is not working, obviously. So they told my parents, they don't know what, if, not when, if I were to wake up from this coma. And then they were able to actually do brain testing, because again, you can't do brain testing in a coma. You have to wait until the person wakes up where there is activity to see if there was any damage. So they told my parents that I could wake up brain damaged and a vegetable. I could wake up with severe memory loss. I could wake up not remembering anything, who people were, what people, anything about my past, like nothing. And they said, we're not going to know. We will not be able to tell you until she wakes up. So now this is 2 weeks that my heart and now my brain, we just didn't know. We didn't know. We didn't know at this time. We didn't know what I would have woken up looking like, And I do know that if I would have woke up and been a vegetable, I would have hoped my parents would have known I would not have wanted to live that way. As we all know, I love getting dressed. I love fashion. I love going out. I love doing things. If I had to live as a vegetable, I wouldn't have been happy. I would have been extremely miserable the rest of my life. Point blank period. I don't know if I could have handled doing that, like, at all. But yeah, no one was gonna be able to know until I woke up. Then the other 3 failing organs from excessive drinking, I had 5. I had 5 major failing organs. We had my cardiac arrest, my heart. Then we had the 2-week coma, so my brain. And then the other 3 are pretty, I think, obvious when it comes to alcohol. That's my liver was not functioning. My kidneys were not functioning. And my pancreas, which controls your glucose, was not functioning. And the reason is because alcohol has an insane amount of sugar. Like insane amount of sugar. Consistently drinking, binge drinking on tons and tons and tons and tons of alcohol, as much as I was flooding my pancreas with sugar. I mean, just flood to the point where it couldn't regulate it anymore. It was so much and so fast. It failed. It could not keep up with the amount that I was intaking. So those were my 5. Now, because of my kidneys, once I came to from cardiac arrest, I was in my coma for 2 weeks. In that time, I was also on dialysis for my kidneys because my kidneys had failed. That was the only way to potentially save them. And they told my parents that I was, my body was in a very, very bad place, and they did not know how much dialysis my body was going to be able to endure. So they said, we're going to start her off on 24 hours nonstop, and let's see how her body handles it. Let's see if it works. I mean, they didn't even know, if it would work at this point. So they said, let's see if it works. They also told my parents that at this point, as sick as my body was, that I had a 40% chance of making it out alive. 40%. That means under half was their estimate of me actually making it out of the hospital alive. 40. They told them that if my body did not start improving in 48 hours, they were going to have to make a decision. Make a decision on if they wanted to pull the ventilator. Make a decision on if they wanted to keep me on life support. So that was at day 2. That was the information my parents had. You got 24 hours. If she's not improving, she's probably not gonna. And you'll have to make a decision and potentially make funeral arrangements. And that's just the reality. Luckily, the dialysis started to work. My body was adapting to it very well. I was now on dialysis for 2 more days. 2 more days. 3 full days, 24 hours of dialysis to repair my kidneys. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. So now we're at the 2-week mark, and I do remember waking up. And if you want, please comment below and let me know if you want me to do what cardiac arrest feels like and what being in a coma feels like. Because believe it or not, I do remember both of those states. And it's a crazy feeling. So let me know if you want me to explain what cardiac arrest and what a coma kind of, what goes through your head, like what kind of goes on, because I can definitely do that, because there's an afterlife, let's just put it that way, okay? But I will definitely do that if you guys want me to. Again, I just want to do these kind of in pieces so that things aren't too long. But now we're going on me waking up, right? So I wake up from the coma. I did know my name. They asked me my name and I did know my name. I had no idea where I was. I had no idea what year it was. They had to share that your name is Lucia DiMatteo. You're in Syracuse, New York. You're at St. Joe's Hospital in Syracuse, New York. I was like, okay, cool. Not what I thought. I thought it was 2015. I thought I was in New York City. Don't ask. Again, that's more of kind of the coma thing. But yeah, and when I woke up, I don't remember them pulling the ventilator out. But I do remember I was starting to breathe on my own, and do everything on my own. However, the fighting didn't stop once I woke up. When I say at 30 years old, I had to learn everything over. I mean, I had to learn everything over. I had to learn how to walk, because now I was in a bed at this point for a month. So once I woke up from the coma after the 2 weeks, I needed physical therapy because I had to learn. I was still, when I woke up from the coma, I was still on bed rest for a while, or for probably another 2 weeks. Once I got transferred, because I was originally at St. Joe's. When I woke up from my coma, I ended up getting a massive infection in my left eye. My dad described it to me as the most horrific thing he's ever seen. He said I had 100 tubes coming out of every body part and everything that there is. The worst thing he saw was my eye. He said it grew to the size of like a softball. So imagine my eye like this big. He said, according to the doctors, when you're in a coma, your eyes are slightly open and rolled back. And because my eyelashes are really long, a lot of dust and a lot of eyelashes got stuck in my water ducts and caused a massive infection. So when I woke up, I had like 2 or 3 different eye medications that they were putting on every day. However, the one thing St. Joe's does not have is a ophthalmologist, which is your eye doctor. So because they didn't have a eye care specialist, they had to move me. I had to be transferred to upstate, because upstate does have eye care specialists. So I was transferred by, of course, ambulance from St. Joe's to upstate. At upstate, I was awake the entire time. So St. Joe's saved my life. 1,000,000% saved my life. I got there. They did CPR. The nurses, not the doctors, the nurses, who I'm eternally and forever grateful for, everyone at St. Joe's for saving my life. I literally would not be here without those ICU nurses. And when I say my respect for nurses is at a level I'm eternally grateful. I have the utmost respect. I can't explain enough how important nurses are. I really can't. I really can't. So they saved my life and they took care of me when I was in my 2-week coma. From there, I was transferred to upstate where they took care of my eye infection and basically started on my rehabilitation. And what I mean is, I had to learn how to walk all over again, because being in a bed in a coma for that long, my legs just lost all strength. I had just none. So I couldn't walk. I had to learn how to walk again. When you have a ventilator in your throat and esophagus for 2 weeks, you obviously are very, very, and I can't even imagine if you're in a coma for longer than 2 weeks, but you are extremely sore, like extremely sore. On top of that, being that your mouth is open as well as your eyes in a coma, I also woke up with a swollen tongue that was full of sores. My lips were so chapped. You know, think about when you have a cold and you breathe in and out through your mouth and they just get super chapped and dry. Imagine going 2 weeks with no chapstick. You're just dry lips. I had sores all around my lips. So between my throat being very tender and sore from the tube, these sores on my lips and the sores on my tongue, I could not talk. I remember waking up and my voice was so little and soft. I mean, you could very faintly hear me. It was like you had to be like here to like hear what I was saying. I mean, it was probably like this was second. That was the best. And I'm a loud person. We all know. If you know me, you know I'm loud as shit. So, my voice was very, very tiny and very little. So I had to train my throat and my vocal cords. So, there was a speech therapist that came in because on top of that, with everything swollen, I had a lisp. So not only was my voice very, very low, but I also had a lisp for a good month probably, where I was very, it was just because my tongue was so swollen. I had a lisp. So I had a speech therapist and a physical therapist. I had to learn how to write. I couldn't hold a pen. I had to learn how to do that. I do remember, I could not eat for days once I woke up. At this point, you have to remember, after the coma and after waking up, before I got into the hospital, I had probably gone on 2 or 3 weeks with no food because if you remember in my first video, I was just throwing everything up. So I basically stopped eating. I couldn't keep anything down. So you think of that time plus 2 weeks in a coma of no, like actually eating solid food. And now we're going on, 2 days awake. So I haven't eaten physical solid food in probably a month. With having the breathing tube, again, you have to retrain your throat because it can forget. It didn't, having the tube down there and obviously getting IVs for the last month, I had to retrain myself how to swallow. They do a specific test at Upstate, or I'm sure any hospital, for people that are in comas, that it's a throat test, a swallow test, where I basically had to sit in this like dungeon cave. That's what it I literally remember them wheeling me, and I literally said to my transporter, I was like, are you going to kill, like, are we going to like kill me? Where are you taking me? Like, it was like this cold, dark, little hole in the wall, like, room, and I'm going, what is like, it was crazy. You sit in there, they put a heavy, almost like when you go to the dentist to get x-rays, like a heavy vest over you, because they have to x-ray your stomach and your lungs and everything. So then they start testing you with different thicknesses of liquid. Believe it or not, there's this thickening powder agent because they give you once you wake up. You obviously cannot have liquids because it slides down too fast and you're not used to swallowing, so it can mess with you. You obviously can't eat solids because you have to get used to chewing, and it's too much to go down. You don't want to choke. And I remember all my doctors telling me, I'm sorry, hon, we cannot give you food. Because I was starving. I was like, I hadn't eaten in a month. I was just begging and begging for food. I remember being so hungry and just telling my mom, like, Mommy, I'm hungry. I just want food. I'm so hungry. And she, I'm sure as a mother felt absolutely horrible because she couldn't feed me, especially an Italian mom. All she wanted to do was feed me. But I couldn't. I had to wait till I took this test because I remember all the doctors going, Lucia, you just survived like a legit miracle. We're not going to have you die from aspirating because you got food in your lungs because you didn't wait to eat. So, and I was like, okay, couldn't do anything. I had to wait. So, I remember when I was waiting to do the test, I do remember getting fed. They give you these sticks with these little sponges on the end. And they told me I could dip the sponge in water, and I couldn't even like suck on it. I could just tap it on my lips to get them moist and to kind of get my mouth moist because it was so blistered and dry and it hurt. Now that I was awake, it hurt. So they would have to dip it in water and just wet my lips. That was all I could do until I got this test. So again, I'm doing this test now. They start with this like thickening powder that they put in water, and it thickens it. And they tell you to take a little taste, swallow it. They have someone watching it go down to see how it goes down. That's what the x-ray does. It's the x-ray of your throat and your stomach and your lungs, so they can see when you swallow where everything is going, making sure it's going into your stomach and not into your lungs. So I had to wait, I think, 2 days to do that test. Then I finally got that done, and I remember they approved me for like baby food. Like you could eat baby, like, like mashed food, Jello, mashed potatoes, broth, things like that. So that was that. And on top of that, I want to remind you that during this time, when you're in a coma, you have a catheter, and I'm sure everyone knows what a catheter is, but in case you don't, it is a tube that goes in your urethra that makes you pee into a bag. Obviously, when you're in a coma, you are still technically alive, and you still have your bodily functions. So I did still have to pee and do all the things. Again, not much number 2 at this point because there was just no food. So there was no actually solid number 2. But I did have a catheter for the 2 weeks that I was in a coma. I also had it the first, I think, day or 2 that I was awake. So once that was taken out, once I awoke and that was taken out, I had to learn how to use the bathroom all over again. I had to learn how to use the bathroom in the sense of you're in a coma for the amount of time, your body forgets when the only way I can explain it is your body forgets that it has to go. It doesn't know when you have to go. So once they took the catheter out, I was in diapers because I still couldn't walk, so I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom. But I didn't need the catheter anymore. And of course, I was still getting therapy, learning how to walk and how to regain the feeling of, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. So they took the catheter out so that I could, do all of those things. And I want to talk to everybody really quick about being humble, because there's one thing I have to say. Before I got sick, I think there were moments when you can lose the sense of reality sometimes. You can lose what to be thankful for. And what I mean by that is, like, until you are put in a situation where you can't do everyday things, just everyday normal things like walking, which I couldn't do, like going to the bathroom, which I couldn't do, like drinking through a straw, which I couldn't do, things that stupid and things that small that we take for granted every single day. Going up and down stairs, which I couldn't do for almost 6 months. You really lose touch of reality and what to be thankful for. And let me tell you this, when I was 30 years old, a 30-year-old grown woman, independently used to doing things like showering and going to the bathroom by myself, you want to talk about a humbling experience? I had other adult women changing my diaper, wiping my poopy ass, to put it in, to not be too vulgar with it, showering, bathing me, sponge bathing me, then bathing me once I could get into a wheelchair and they could wheel me into a stand-up shower, showering me, couldn't lift my arms over my head, so they had to wash my hair, bathing me, wiping me, changing me, watching me go to the bathroom. Once I was able to get on a commode, which is a portable little bucket that people who can't walk, they lift you up from your hospital bed and can sit you right on the commode that they put right next to your bed. But I had nurses having to pick me up to put me on the commode, because I remember I had a band that I was a liability because I couldn't walk. And I would try to walk, I would try to get out of bed and stand up to go to my commode by myself, and I would end up falling. So I had a red band liability bracelet. So I had nurses who had to come lift me up, pick me up, put me on the toilet, the commode, and have to listen to me poop, watch me poop so that they could clean me. When you want to talk about humiliating and being humble, just remember that things can be taken away from you and things can bring you back to reality so fast that never forget how thankful we are and how blessed we are. Never forget to be thankful, to remember how blessed we are to just do normal, everyday, adult, human things. Because when you all of a sudden can't anymore, that crap, man, listen, It changes your perspective on life. I can't even explain it to you. I really can't. It was such a humbling experience. Embarrassing, but humbling at the same time. It really brings you back to reality, like fast. So, yeah, I had to learn how to do all those things. Again, including going to the bathroom. And I remember my nurses always saying, when you feel the feeling, when you feel you're going to get a sensation. When you start to feel the sensation, ring the bell. We'll come get you. We'll bring you to the bathroom. And let's see if we can do it like that. Because there would be times I would just be sitting and it would just come out. It would just come out. I would pee on myself. It would just come out. Because when you're in the coma, you forget the sensation that you're supposed to have when you have to go to the bathroom. So I lost that sensation completely. So to retrain your body literally brings you back to being about 2 years old when you have to learn how to potty train. I was at Upstate Hospital learning how to potty train, basically. So, yeah, that was really my, we're at 36 minutes, so I don't want to go too much longer, but that was basically my hospital stay. That was basically it. I do remember forgetting when you're in a hospital with really no track of the days, you really start to forget. I started to forget the day of the week. I didn't know what day was what. I remember the only way I knew it was morning time. Because in the hospital, now you're on so much I was still on a lot of medication. When I got to Upstate, I still had a 102, 103 fever. Now, mind you, when I was admitted into ICU from day one, before I went into cardiac arrest, I had 104 fever. Because remember, I was going through withdrawals. So I had the chills, I had the shakes, I was throwing up, I had a hot 104 temperature. I was hot, I was cold, I was freezing, I was sweating. It was really bad. And for some reason, I think it's because of all the failing organs, I could not get rid of my fever. I had 102, 103 temperature at Upstate, I know, for a while. So I was still getting antibiotics in my system. I was still getting an IV, where I was getting anxiety medication. I was getting Zoloft that was being pumped in my IV the whole time I was at Upstate, because now I'm awake. I'm awake from a coma. I'm in the hospital. I have no one no family with me during, at night. And I don't have alcohol anymore. So I have to deal with this anxiety somehow. And they knew why I went in once my parents explained everything. So they had put me on anxiety meds, once I woke up. So yeah, I remember every night just waiting for morning, and the only way I knew it was morning time, or what time it kind of was, every morning when I woke up, all I waited for was my daddy. I remember, I don't want to cry, but he was the first face that I saw every morning. So through the night, I would wait patiently for morning, because I knew I would see him. And I would get so excited. So I always knew it was 7:30, because I would get to see my daddy. Once he left, sorry. But once he left, time went out the window. I knew I would be seeing my mom after work. I knew I would be seeing my other family who I remember was there every day. And I was telling my crazy stories too when everybody came up to see me. Yeah. It was an interesting time, guys. It was a very interesting time. We're at 40 minutes. My God, I don't want to keep you here for an hour. So, this is part 2. Just a little insight of my 3-week hospital stay, my month hospital stay, from cardiac arrest to coma to therapy and relearning everything we grew up learning. You literally revert back to a 2-year-old. When you wake up from a coma, you literally revert back to a 2-year-old. You absolutely have to learn how to walk, talk, eat, go to the bathroom, everything all over again. So, know this one thing. Drinking does not just mess up your liver. Drinking does not just make you gain weight. Drinking can cause so much more damage than I think we realize. I know it caused way more damage than I ever knew. I mean, I knew you could mess up your liver, but I didn't know this was stuff that could happen. And we have to also remember that our body is one big, well-oiled machine. And if you have a machine and one little piece breaks, that just causes the entire machine to break down. So what went from one thing failing led to, it was the domino effect, from one thing failing to the next thing failing to the next thing failing to the next thing, and it just became a cycle until my body was just like, you're done. You have shut off every button. You have shut off every button. There is no more up. There isn't. You're at rock bottom. This is it. Your body can no longer take this. So remember that you are one well-oiled machine, and if one piece of that machine is broken, or one little button is off, you can mess up the entire machine. The whole machine can break. So that is it for now, guys. I'm sorry it's almost 45 minutes, but I really wanted you to get an idea of what alcohol can do and the recovery. If, that's the other thing, big if you make it, because I was 40% chance, which is less than half, so it's not that good. So if you're able to survive what I survived, or if you are able to catch yourself before you get to the state that I was at, know it's such a long road to recovery. It's a long road to recovery physically and mentally and spiritually, all of the things. So please just remember, drinking is a lot more than just your liver. It really does break everything. So keep that in mind. But we are done for now. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time, your subscriptions, your comments, all of that. I really do. And I really hope, as my grandma said, I just hope that this can help one person. One person. If I can save one person's life by sharing my story, then that is literally all I wanted. So I'll see you next time. And don't forget to comment if you want the kind of what it's like being in a coma or going into cardiac arrest, because I can do something like that too. And hopefully the next videos, the upcoming videos, will be happier and more exciting. But until next time, bye.